We need a theme song. I gotta come up with one. I gotta create something because I just feel like every episode should open with a theme song. I feel like if we don't have a theme song, what's the point?
What if I just sing?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That one. Can't do that one.
Oh, no, we can't. We got to get that one struck from YouTube.
Oh
We'll
man,
get it straight. Dang it. Ah, God.
we're going from the red line on our video.
Yes, literally. All right, you ready to do this thing?
Sure.
What is going on, internet world? This is your co-host Aubyn,
And Shaylyn.
and this is the Culture Corner podcast. This podcast has been like almost a year in the making. We announced that we were going to be going into this venture together, and then we never did anything for so many reasons. But we were just super busy. Like we were bouncing all over the universe trying to do things and figure out life, and so we're here. Finally, the podcast world is coming back. You're going to see a lot more of us. So you'll have the shows that we had announced before are still going to be a thing. The Culture Corner podcast will be me and Shaylyn. We'll be talking a lot about different cultural aspects of life, having some fun conversations and hopefully some very educational conversations, but we'd like to have fun also. So you're going to hear a lot of that kind of stuff on this show. We're going to be bringing back You Think You Know with... So that will be starting again, hopefully soon. Trying to revamp that format a little bit and trying to make it a little more accessible for the audience, trying to figure out what I want to do with that show. Shaylyn is not co-hosting that one. That one's by myself. And then I've got the other show that I'm going to be hosting, Come On Son. We actually do have an episode of that planned. That will be Wednesday night. So check us out for Come On Son. It's going to be fun. We're looking at the NFL. So if you're a sports fan, if you like football, check us out on Wednesday night. The same channel. You can find us on Facebook and YouTube. You can also find us on Instagram at the Culture Corner podcast. The Culture Corner. You can find us all over the place. And so find us on all of our socials, follow us, like us. If you are here because you were a fan of the Afro Latinos podcast, we're still around. We're still here. Cheney might not be here anymore on the podcast, but our show is still here. Our channels are still the same. The only one that's different is our YouTube page. The Facebook page still has all of our old content on it. Instagram, I think, still has all of our old content on it. The only thing that is new is the YouTube page. That is brand new. That has nothing. This new Culture Corner podcast, YouTube will only have our things on here. The Afro Latino stuff is kind of in their own little channel. So we are here tonight to talk about Women's History Month and to play a game called Top 5. And we'll cover all of that for right now. But Shaylyn is actually going to start this episode as we are kind of an educational podcast. Well, you know what? Before we can get there, Shaylyn, why don't we introduce ourselves to people who are maybe new viewers and new listeners to this show and have no idea who we are and why they should listen to us. And I'll let you go first.
Oh boy. Okay, so my name is Shaylyn Force. I am a middle school teacher. I actually teach English. Hit it real good at the beginning. I'm using my laptop, which is something that I wanted to tell you, so I'll just tell you in my introduction. I have not used my laptop since October, and it works. I thought it didn't work. Some fun things about me. I love Dr. Pepper. I have 2 dogs that I share with Aubyn.
We share custody. Yes, this is my name is Aubyn Johnson. This is my wife, Shaylyn Force. I am a high school Spanish teacher. More to come on that. That's fun news. I am a musical director at a local school district. We just finished our last show last week, my first show at that school district last week, or was it last week or 2 weeks? It feels like forever ago already. I think it was 2 weeks ago, actually.
It had to have been last week. It's only the 10th.
Well,
13th.
Yeah, well, it doesn't really matter when it was. We had a great time. A shout out to my Adams family. You guys are the best. Thank you for making my first experience as a high school musical director amazing. So I not only direct, but I also perform at a local theater called the Community Theater League, where I am on the board of directors and I direct there and I act there. It's a whole lot. Musical theater is pretty much what I do for fun. It's what I'm good at, as well as hosting podcasts. So we are here tonight again to talk about the history of Women's History Month. So Shaylyn is going to break it down for us. She's going to let us know kind of where this whole idea got started, how it became a thing, and then we are going to play a game of top five. So Shaylyn, take it away.
Awesome. So the history of women's history. So we are going not so far back to 1978. So the first celebration of women that has taken place on kind of a larger scale was in 1978 in Santa Rosa, California. So when you think about it, 1978 is not that far away. It is super, super recent. The first celebration was actually just Women's History Week. So it was just the week that held March 8th, because March 8th was designated as International Women's Day. So we always celebrate March 8th. That has been pretty much the same since the very beginning. So a lot of people had their hands in Women's History Week. So one of them one of the big players was the Sonoma County Commission Educational Task Force. They played a large role in it. Then, just 2 years later, so 2 years of just celebrating the week, the Women's History Project, so they are now called the Women's History Alliance, they wanted to get national recognition. So the first 2 years were just kind of like California based, and then people were like, hey, let's do this nationally for a week of celebrating women. So in 1980, President Jimmy Carter actually was like, hey, let's nationally do this for a week and celebrate women. Woo! So we were celebrating a week for 7 years. So until 1987, Congress passed a law which then made Women's History Month. So that is what we currently celebrate. So we went from a week to 4 weeks of women. So there had been a bunch of stuff that happened since then, different amendments that have happened and different things that have been put in place to celebrate women. But that is basically where we come from. So without Jimmy Carter, President Jimmy Carter, we could only be celebrating women for a week now, when you think about it. Imagine only celebrating women for a week. There
I
wasn't
celebrate women every day.
right. There was a quote that I did want to share from President Jimmy Carter's message. This is when he was talking about Women's History Week turning into Women's History Month in the future. He said, from the first settlers who came to our shores, from the first American Indian families who befriended them, men and women have worked together to build this nation. Too often the women are unsung, and sometimes their contributions went unnoticed. But the achievements, leadership, courage, strength, and love of the women who built America was as vital as that of the men whose names we know so well. So I thought that was very eloquent when we talk about women and how much they've really done for like our history, not only as a nation, but really as a world.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you, Shaylyn, for sharing the history of women's history. And so now we are going to play a game, and this game is called Top Five. Okay, this is going to be very interesting. Shaylyn and I have created our own lists. Here are the 4 categories that we're going to be talking about today. We are looking at women in music, women in TV and film, women in literature, and women in sports. And so we each have a list. We have not compared these lists at all. We've not talked about it at all. In fact, I'm very afraid of one of these lists in particular because I don't know what she's going to say. And I feel like I drafted like my perfect list, in my opinion. And I don't want to have to change one of my options to someone else because as soon as one of us says that person, we're going to have to throw a wrench in the plan and switch it up. So basically, each of us have our list of 5. We're going to take turns as if this was a draft of sorts, although we don't really want to call it a draft because that's weird. So we are just going to be making a list of our top 5 women in each of those 4 categories that I mentioned before. Now, these top 5 can be various qualifications. These sometimes are just favorites. These sometimes are the people that we find influential or just people that we really just enjoy. And so this is in no particular order to these lists. These are just lists. So hopefully you will enjoy and or not enjoy our list. Let us know in the comments how we're doing. You can put in the comments on Facebook and YouTube or wherever you're watching or listening from. Come back to the Culture Corner podcast and check us out and let us know what you thought about our lists. Shaylyn, I will let you choose the category that we look at first. So do you want to look at music, TV and film, literature, or sports first?
Well, do we want to start off silly or do we want to start off kind of
You pick. It doesn't matter. Whatever you want to go to.
Let's do athletes first.
All right. Top 5 women in sports. Again, these are in no particular order. These are any answers that we think are correct, or for whatever reason, we may or may not have an explanation for them. Just see what happens. So, Shaylyn, who are you taking first in your top 5 women in sports?
My first one is Ariana Grande.
In sports?
Yes. My defense, and you're gonna laugh. I can't even say without laughing. The side to side music video. She's on the bike. I couldn't fit her in here because she's not on my music list. So she had to make it in somewhere. So I used the side to side music video to justify her being in here. On the bike.
That's a choice. Yeah. You know what? Whatever. Sure. Okay.
Again, not in any order. She's
Not
just
in
on
any-
my list.
Correct. You're right. Not in any order. She's just on there because. Okay, great. So my first pick in the top 5 women in sports for me, I gotta go with Serena Williams. She is arguably the greatest tennis player ever, arguably the greatest athlete ever in terms of her accomplishments and just what she's done for the sport of tennis, and kind of her and her sister coming up and really making tennis kind of popular in a way. I just think that you can't have a list of women in sports without talking about Serena Williams. So that's who I'm taking first.
All right. My second pick. I'm rotating my list a little. I am picking Angel Reese from LSU women's basketball team. She's very talented. And I've seen some of her clips and she's crazy. So that is why she is on my athletes list.
Okay. I think this next one I might be a steal for you. I might have taken this next one from you, but I'm gonna do it anyway because you can't talk about women in sports and their accomplishments without talking about Simone Biles.
Of course you took that one from me. I knew
What
it.
she's done in the world of gymnastics and the number of gold medals that what she is, the epitome of excellence in her field. Simone Biles is incredible. And yeah, I'm sorry for the steal there. And I knew it was going to happen. I knew it was going to happen. And I felt it. And I feel bad about it, but not bad enough for me to change my mind. Simone Biles, number 2.
Simone Biles, she is. I'm not a gymnast, but honestly, the talent and just the pure. She's literally the GOAT.
Yes.
Literally the GOAT. Like, not even just like gymnastics. I feel like as an all around like wholesome person, Simone Biles is the GOAT, and she is a fabulous woman.
Agreed.
So I have to make a replacement on my list now, correct?
Yes.
All right. I'm going to pick at number 3, Olympic medalist Katie Ledecky.
That's the swimmer, right?
Yes. And that explains it all.
Okay. For my number 3, I'm going to stick in the world of boxing, in the world of gymnastics, and I'm going to throw Gabby Douglas into the ring. We're going to take Gabby Douglas, another Olympic gold medalist, another woman who is just absolutely incredible and deserves to be on the list.
All right. I'm panicking now. All right. My number 4, I'm going to take Suni Lee, another gymnast. We are really getting our gymnasts in here.
Yeah.
I'm going to take her. Well, no, that's my number 4, isn't it? Not number
Yes,
3.
that was
I'm
number
gonna
4.
take again, very, very talented gymnast. We're getting all the gymnasts.
All right. And my number 4, actually, I didn't have this person on my list originally, but when I had a little Freudian slip there and said boxing, it came to mind another woman in the sport who really and truly epitomizes kind of excellence in her field and what she's done and her greatness in the boxing ring. And it helps that her father was the GOAT of boxing as well. I'm going to take Layla Ali. Layla
Mm,
Ali in the sport of boxing, she was excellent. And yeah, so I think she deserves to be on the list. She's not who I had originally on my list, but I don't think I could really do this without her. So Layla
so
Ali is number 4.
my number 5, I wanna give an honorable mention before I give my number 5 because I just thought about her in terms of when you mentioned boxing. Who is the former boxer, or I'm probably saying this wrong, former boxer, then became a WWE star, Ronda Rousey?
Ronda Rousey.
I think she could
She
be
was
an
not
honor
boxing. She was in MMA.
I think she could be an honorable mention.
I actually replaced Ronda Rousey from my list with Layla Ali. So
There you go. I
she was on my list. Because she was such a beast when she was in the MMA. She was just a destroyer until her last 3 fights, before she retired. I mean, she was undefeated. She just was an animal. She was great in the sport of MMA. I think people wanted to be her. People feared her. She had a couple bad last bouts, and then she retired and went into the WWE. But yeah, so Ronda Rousey was on my list, but Layla Ali did retire from the sport of boxing as an undefeated boxer. She was a champion. Like she was great, and I couldn't finish my list without her.
my actual number 5 is that chick Angel from the tennis episode that she did with Tony Baker and friends.
You are a mess and a half. I cannot believe you just said that. What's wrong with you? She did win the episode, though, I think. I think she did win that episode. So
The
shout
rest
out
of
to her.
the rest of my list are serious.
And
I
I
really should
will
athletes because my brain, I function in cheerleading. So I couldn't just pick the best 5 gymnasts. And
you
I knew
could
that
have. It's your list. You do what you want to do with your list. I mean, you put Ariana Grande in there, and to be honest, I would rather have seen more gymnasts and cheerleaders in that list than Ariana Grande. But that's all right. It's your list.
hey, I have my sense.
And I want to round out the list. This might be a little controversial of a pick, but I'm going to say it anyway. Brittany Griner. Brittany Griner deserves to be on the list. When I remember watching her clips from Baylor when she was in college, and she was dunking like, well, first of all, she's 6'8", right? So she's as tall as LeBron James. Um, and she was dunking and doing things that you don't typically see women do in the sport of basketball. It was really impressive, and like this is maybe I don't know if I should say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. Um, the women's sports typically don't get a ton of shine in pop culture, in the media, in the sports world. But I remember when Brittany Griner was coming up, and we were wondering where she was going to go in the WNBA or WNBA, and how she was going to look coming out of Baylor. I remember watching her highlight tapes and stuff on ESPN, like ESPN Top 10, which for the most part is usually dominated by the male sports or male sports, whatever you want to say. But I remember watching Brittany Griner play like at Baylor. Like I couldn't probably tell you many women in basketball who I was watching their career highlights, but I remember watching Brittany Griner. So am I saying she's the most influential? Am I saying she's the best? Maybe, maybe not. But she deserves to be on the list because she made an impact on me in terms of women's basketball. So that
Mhm.
is how I feel, and that is rounds out my top 5 women in sports. So Shaylin, where are we going next? Literature, TV and film, or music?
I'm fine with any of them.
You pick.
Oh, I hate when you do that. Let's go to TV and film.
TV and film. You may again begin. Top 5 women in TV and film.
Well, I'm gonna take this one because I know she's on your list, I think. Oh, what's her name? It was
Wait, do
either
you have this written down on your paper? Because you don't have it written down. I don't think you should be able to steal. All right, all right. I'm just checking.
um, I'm going to take with my number one, Viola Davis. She is genuinely my number one on my paper. Is she literally not the literal best actress in the world? And I know as soon as I saw this category, TV and film, I knew she had to be my number one. I had to take her. So I
Viola Davis, my woman king. You know, that's my jam. And I'm mad because she was also my number one. So I'm going to go with Angela Bassett did the thing. Angela Bassett. You know, Angela Bassett has been around in TV and film for such a long time. She is great. She should have won an Oscar last night for her performance in Wakanda Forever. The fact that she did not win, Twitter is still not over it. I am not over it. Her performance in that movie was Oscar worthy. I don't care what anyone says. Jamie Lee Curtis should not have won that Oscar over her. Feel how you feel. Say what you want to say. I don't care. I gotta have Angela Bassett there. She's worked too hard and too long in this industry to not be recognized like that. And she was the first woman from a Marvel film, like a superhero film, to be nominated for an Oscar. That doesn't happen. Like that kind of stuff does not happen. And Angela Bassett was able to do that. And that it speaks so much to her performance, I think. And she definitely should have won an Oscar last night, but she's got to be on my list. So Angela Bassett, it is.
my number two is Adina Menzel.
It's a good one.
My list kind of went toward Broadway a little bit because I really wanted to highlight because TV and film, but also we are such theater people, so not highlight um the voices and the talent that we see on Broadway. So she is on my list, number two.
Which reminds me of someone that I can't believe I left off my list. And this might end up affecting your list. Again, my apologies.
It will not affect my list.
I'm gonna throw Cynthia Erivo in there since I have to replace Viola Davis anyway.
Oh,
Cynthia Erivo is going on my list. Not only was she great in Harriet, she's one of my favorite singers. I saw her on Broadway in The Color Purple. She is everything. She's incredible. She's amazing. She deserves to be there. She's literally playing in Wicked, the movie, opposite Ariana Grande. Fun fact. You could have put her in that list, by the way. You could have thrown her in here. You could have given me Viola Davis, and you could have left Ariana Grande in the film and movie, since film and TV, since she did start on Nickelodeon on TV,
well,
and then she went to Wicked. So that's where you could have put her. That's all. I'm just saying you could have
so
given me Viola Davis. That's it.
Ariana Grande, I am sorry, she's my girl. Love her for years. I am not giving her my top 5 for being Cat Valentine.
You
I'm
could have.
not
You
doing that.
could have for being Alphaba and Wicked.
Have you seen that? Have I seen that?
Do you need to see it to know that she's gonna be great?
No.
All right.
But
Well,
I was trying to do actual, in my list at least, I was trying to do actual women who have impacted my viewing experience.
Cynthia Erivo's on my list, so
That is a very good pick for your list.
I thought
That
so
is
too.
super good. That is the perfect karma for me taking what's her name? What?
Viola Davis,
Yes, no, what character am I thinking of for her?
Annalise Keating.
Annalise Keating. You should do the walk.
No,
All right, is it my turn?
it is.
All right, my number 3 is going to Julie Andrews.
It's a good pick.
She's a very good pick.
No explanation needed. My number 3, again, these are in no particular order. These are just my list. I'm gonna go with Shonda Rhimes because Shondaland is everything. She
Mhm.
gave us Grey's Anatomy. She gave us Bridgerton. She gave us Scandal, How to Get Away with Murder. If you want to watch a TV show that you become like obsessed with and you can't wait to get to the next episode, Shonda Rhimes is the reason. If there's that drama that you're looking for, like if you're looking for a drama where you just want to sink your teeth into and never stop watching, you look no further than any project that Shonda Rhimes has had her hand in, because that's just, it's just gonna happen. That's it. Yep.
She's a pick. Do you want to know who I didn't include on my list that I really wish I would have done, and I feel like replacing someone from my list for? Mrs. Meredith Grey herself. She did not make it on my list.
Ellen Pompeo. She was Meredith Grey.
She did not make it.
All right. Number 4.
Number 4, Anne Hathaway for me.
Okay.
Princess. So grew up with Princess Diaries, Les Mis, just her existence. And that's why Anne Hathaway is on here.
All right, say no more. You're gonna hate this next answer, but I'm gonna save it because I know you're not gonna say it. So I'm gonna save my next one since I know this person's not on your list, just in case this next one is. We're gonna throw Oprah Winfrey. You can't really talk about success in TV without talking about Oprah Winfrey. You know, plain and simple, you literally just can't. So, super influential, changed the game in terms of especially Black women on TV and doing that and becoming as she's a billionaire. I'm pretty sure she's a billionaire. If she's not, she's got to be up there. If she's not a billionaire, she's got to be pretty high up there. So yeah, Oprah Winfrey's got to make my list. She is a 2.5 billionaire, by the way.
She could share some.
Yeah.
I'd love some.
Yeah, you get a billion. You get a billion. I'm cool with that. She can
top 5
anywhere she wants.
Maybe you'll get royalty.
What, Cheney? No way. What?
And then finally, my number 5 is Rebel Wilson.
That is a choice. That is a choice. I'm gonna let you rock with that choice. I don't know that's a good one, but hey, it is a choice.
I made a choice.
You did. My number 5, and since I know you were not gonna say this person, I felt comfortable leaving her until the end. Lupita Nyong'o.
Oh, I've never seen her.
Lupita Nyong'o is an amazing actress. She's incredible in every project I've ever seen her in. She was great in Nope. She was great in 12 Years a Slave. She was fantastic in
She was in Nope.
Yeah. Oh no, that was Keke Palmer. Sorry, she was in Us.
Don't get that.
In Us, she was fantastic. In Wakanda Forever, she had Chadwick's baby. She had baby Chadwick. Spoiler alert! But if you haven't seen Wakanda Forever by now, you spoiled it for yourself. I don't know what to tell you. So Lupita Nyong'o has got to go on that list. She's incredible. She's an amazing actress. And that rounds out my top 5 women in television and film. 2 categories left, Shaylyn: music and literature. Where do you want to go?
Since we're fighting for the death now, let's go to music.
Oh God, I'm so not ready for this. Just hurt me now.
My number 1 is Whitney Houston.
Oh, thank God you didn't take my first one.
I think I know your first one, and I think your first one is my number 5.
Well, it's got to be. She's got to be my number 1. Do you want to explain it all, Whitney Houston? Or you're just going to throw it out there?
So Whitney Houston is not someone that I'm immediately like, oh, go put Whitney Houston on. However, after begging my entire family to go see the documentary about her, my whole universe has kind of changed in just in thinking about who she is and just how she was so strong and did what she wanted to do, not what the industry wanted her to do. And I think just watching that documentary as a young woman myself, just seeing myself in her as someone who never wanted to give up her dream for what somebody else wanted. So that's why I'm putting Whitney Houston and just her amazing talent, like the goosebumps the entire time you listen to her. But that is why she is on my list.
It's a good one. I'm just gonna take it because I don't want you to take it from me, and I just gotta throw it out there. I mean, Cheney said it best. Cheney knows me better than
Oh,
most. Beyonce's got to be number one. I mean, Beyonce. I can't have a list of my favorite musicians. Well, I have very, very many different lists when it comes to musicians and to music because I love music and it means that much to me. But when I think about all time performing and a performer, who would I want to pay the most to go see? It would be Beyonce. I've seen her in concert. It was everything I wanted it to be and more. If her tickets weren't $1 trillion a piece, I would try and go on this tour that she's going on right now with Renaissance. But I can't. I mean, her and her husband Jay Z, obviously, combined, their net worth is $1 billion, well, a billion plus. Ivy Park, and she's made it through her whole career for the most part without any major scandals. And she started as a child, all the way back before Destiny's Child, when they were Girls' Time, and then becoming Destiny's Child and being kind of the standout of Destiny's Child, and then being able to go solo and making her solo career as successful as it has been over all these years. I mean, there's not an album that I would not listen to right now. I could, you know what I mean? Like that, Beyonce is that person for me. I can't have a list of my favorite performers in music without talking about Beyonce.
I like that you bring up she is not like her scandals, if any, are baby.
I mean,
I
other
like
than the fact that the world thinks she's, part of the Illuminati and whatever, all that stuff. But like for the most part, she's lived a very clean, if you want to say as an adjective, like you know what I mean, like a clean public image.
I really like that you bring that up. I did not think of that when I said these.
Yeah, Cheney, but see, that wasn't her scandal. That was Jay Z. Jay Z did wrong. Beyonce ain't do nothing, but raise them kids. You know what I'm saying? She was just there having a baby. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah.
All right. That is not who I thought you were going to take because I feel like I knew you were going to take Beyonce, but I I have someone on my list that I feel like you are going to have on your list, and it's not who I intended. I thought you were going to just try and sweep this person from me, but I'll save it. My next pick for number 2 is Adele.
I almost put her on my list.
Yes. For Adele's selflessness, her privacy, yet her transparency, the truth in her lyrics, the voice on that woman. That is why she is on my list. She was originally number 1, but I didn't want you to take Whitney Houston.
I thought about it, but there were others that I thought I wanted to put on this list more. For example, I mentioned earlier that I have kind of various favorites in different aspects of life and in music because music means that much to me and because it is so powerful to me. I have very different lists. Like my students always ask me, like, Mr. Johnson, who's your favorite, artist, whatever. I'm like, are we talking about musicianship? Are we talking about performance? Are we just talking purely vocals? Like, there's so many different lists because I really care about the music that much. Jasmine Sullivan is on my list of favorites, and she's going to be on my top 5 women in music because just her vocal ability, her vocal agility, what she's able to do. If you did not see her and listen to her national anthem when she sang for Game 5 of this last year's World Series, it was equally as impressive and moving as Whitney Houston's when she sang the national anthem at the Super Bowl. Jasmine Sullivan, her vocals are insane. Hotels is one of my favorite albums to just kind of listen to when I want to just relax and listen to a good R&B album. Jasmine Sullivan's got to be on the list. Cheney, baby. Cheney, you know Jasmine got to be on my list, man. Jasmine got to be on my list. All right, God, the blasphemy. She ain't even all that. You're bugged out.
My turn.
Mm-hmm.
So, my number 3 is don't laugh. My number 3 is Dolly Parton.
I knew she was gonna be on your list. I knew it. But she does. But to be fair, she does mean a lot to music. In the history of music and women in music, she means a lot to the history. So I'm glad she's on your list because she's not making mine.
I even just quickly looked at the people that she's so like well known, wrote music for, when you think about how even just Miley Cyrus and like the connection that Miley Cyrus and Dolly Parton have and how that has kind of influenced Miley Cyrus's career. I think that Dolly Parton, if you are around her, she's just a catalyst for success because everyone loves Dolly Parton.
Well, and here's the thing, Whitney Houston, one of Whitney Houston's biggest songs was originally a Dolly Parton song. So you don't really get Whitney Houston and her sound. I mean, you would still have her and she still would have been as phenomenal, but you wouldn't have had the exact same thing had Dolly Parton not done what she did. So
Yeah.
all right.
Oh,
Selena's a great answer, Janie. Selena's a great answer. So this is number 3. I'm going to go with another billionaire on my list. I've had now 2. This is the second one. 3 if you count Beyonce as the couple. But Robin Rihanna Fenty is making my list of top women in music, and I'm putting her in this category because I didn't have anywhere else to put her. Musically, she's not my absolute favorite vocal. There are some songs that I really enjoy of hers, but she's not my favorite musically. But number one, she's a billionaire, and so with her company Fenty and Savage Fenty and on all of those things and what she's done in music, like she is incredible. And I think you can't really talk about music and what it means to be a musician without having Rihanna at least somewhere in the conversation. Although most public success comes from this new venture where she's looking at the Fenty and that kind of stuff. But I think that Rihanna should probably be on the list because of who she is as a whole, and music was the best place for me to put her.
I think when just talking about top 5 influential or just top 5 women,
Right.
Even if we just want to talk about like since we've been alive, I think that she totally deserves a spot in that top 5.
Yeah.
She, for every reason that you just said, she's a woman. My number 4, I'm worried about saving my number 5, but
you have no worries. I promise you the next 2 you will not have. There's no shot.
Okay, my number 4 is Taylor Swift.
Sorry.
I am not a Taylor Swift fan, but when you think of all of the people who are dying over the what is it called?
I don't know.
Reputations tour or whatever. No.
I've seen it. I don't know. I know it's not Reputation because I'm pretty sure I saw her on the Reputations tour. I think I went to that concert. Huh?
Eras tour then? Whatever it's called.
I don't care about her enough to know.
Then you even think that through what she's been through as an artist, the exact opposite of Whitney Houston, how she had been so censored, and then she comes out as again another strong woman in the industry saying no, like this is my version, and then she releases Taylor's version, and she's just such like an ally to women. Every time that I watch something that has her in it, she's always talking about women and how it impacts women, how women will look. So that's why Taylor Swift is on my list. In addition to, she was able to date Harry Styles. So,
in a way. All right, my number 4. I'm gonna go with Ella Fitzgerald. One of the most beautiful and just soulful voices in music. Quite literally, most of what, especially in what we might call like African American music, most of that comes from Ella Fitzgerald. Like we couldn't have done a lot of that without her being who she was. She was the first African American woman to win multiple Grammys. And that happened at the very first Grammy Awards in 1958. So, like the very first time that people were being recognized for their music, Ella Fitzgerald won twice, which at that time in the 50s was huge. It was everything for her to get that recognition. She was also the first African American woman to perform at a Super Bowl halftime show in 1972. So, like you literally cannot talk about African American women in music without mentioning Ella Fitzgerald in the conversation. Not to mention that some of my favorite songs, Dream a Little Dream of Me, Cheek to Cheek, she had that album with her and Louis Armstrong. and between the sultriness of her voice with that kind of grovel of his voice, it just such a beautiful combination. And I love listening to them together. Ella and Louis are top tier, so I gotta have Ella Fitzgerald on my list.
That's a good call. My number 5 is Lauryn Hill.
I love Lauryn Hill. The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill is one of the greatest R&B albums, R&B hip hop albums ever. Yeah, that's a great choice.
I picked Lauryn Hill because Lauryn Hill was like the first female artist I remember you showing me that kind of has led me down to my love for the kind of R&B,
Hmm.
everything that Lauryn Hill is. And so
Hmm.
I just remember being able to just like jam with you to Lauryn Hill. So she had like just listening to her has really changed my music taste.
Well, and it's crazy that like Lauryn Hill legitimately released one album. Like
Mhm.
it came out in the 90s. I want to say 96 or 98. Lauryn Hill released one album, The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, and it is still, for most music heads, talked about as the greatest R&B album ever. Lauryn Hill is talked about as being the top female MC ever, with literally having one project. But that album, I literally have it in my classroom. Like I have the vinyl in my room to play in my classroom because I love listening to it so much. I love Lauryn Hill and her music, and that's a great choice. And I'm kind of sad that she's not on my list. But number 5, again, I wanted to take a look at the history of music a little bit and see some more influential women in music history. And I want to talk about Diana Ross, who most people might know from her work with the Supremes. But Diana Ross, as a solo artist, also she was just such a powerhouse and such a wonderful artist. Some of the stats that I had found when I was doing some research just about who these people were and what they meant to music. Cheney, you're such an idiot. Diana Ross had 70 hit singles. 18 of them were number one on the Billboard chart. And she's the only artist to have ever reached the top as a solo artist, a duet partner, part of a trio, and part of an ensemble. So she not only proved that she was a GOAT by herself, but that she made those around her better and that she knew how music kind of worked and how to make music better. And so Diana Ross, I think, has to be on the list.
Good one. All right.
And the final category, top 5 women in literature. This one I'm a little nervous about because as most people who know me know, although this kind of is difficult for next year, but I have not done a ton of reading throughout my 26 years of life. But I want to take a stab at it. I've got some choices that I'm going to make, and we're just going to go for it.
Do you want to Cheney?
I mean, it's a great piece of work. It will go for it down in history forever.
Frank is on your list.
No, not on my list.
Do you want to start this category?
No.
Because as a woman who loves reading, I can quickly think on the spot. So I'm willing to let you go first to replace my list.
All right. Thanks for being so kind. Horrendous? Oh, I don't know what that meant. I don't want to know. It's okay. Number 1, I'm going to go with Harper Lee.
I knew it.
Harper Lee. Now, here's the thing. Harper Lee is, and I'm looking over my list, right? And I'm looking at all of these names, and Harper Lee is the only. Oh, nah, yeah, no, Janie, you're right. You're good. And Frank was a great answer. Harper Lee is the only person who is not a person of color, a woman of color, on my entire list of all of these top 5s that we've done.
Oh,
Huh?
Nothing. I was just gonna say we're good than our lists.
It was semi intentional in that way, but also, as an African American Dominican male, like that means a lot to me. And so I really wanted to highlight women of color specifically. But I don't think that there's many works of literature that mean as much as Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird. And so again, I don't have a ton of literature experiences in my life, but the ones that do stick with me stuck with me. And so we're gonna say Harper Lee, because I just think that she was just incredible in that work. I mean, I was in the play. I was Tom Robinson in a production of To Kill a Mockingbird. So I just think that that was just it just goes down in the history books. You can't do without it. So Harper Lee first.
All right. My first one I'm going to take because I know my number 4 is also on your list. But I'm going to take Jane Austen in my first seed spot. A lot of the authors that I have picked, they are from the canon, the classics. Because just thinking about Pride and Prejudice, even if you've only watched the movie, just the elegance that comes with Jane Austen. As soon as I think of Jane Austen, I just think of elegance. And she's just this is my number 1.
All right, number 2. I'm not sure who you think is on my list. So I'm gonna go with this one because I'm assuming it's who you think is on my list. I'm gonna go with Maya Angelou. Um, Why the Caged Bird Sing. She read at Barack Obama's inauguration. Um, a fantastic poet, writer, author, all of the above. I yeah, can't have Maya Angelou not on the list.
Very good pick. Very, very good pick. Next, I'm pulling out the poet Emily Dickinson. I'm Nobody, Who Are You is one of the poems that is sticking out to me right now. Just went over it with my students. Emily Dickinson is, I don't want to necessarily say elegant, but when you learn about Emily Dickinson and her family, and just some of the controversy around her family, Emily Dickinson is pretty cool when you think about it.
All right. My number 3. I think you're gonna say. I don't know if I should say it. I'm gonna say it. Alice Walker. I'm gonna put Alice Walker at number 3. I don't know if you know who Alice Walker is. Are you familiar?
Colorful.
The Color Purple. Yeah, for no other reason than as the author of The Color Purple. Such a powerful book. The movie adaptation is incredible. I've seen it on Broadway. We saw it another time at the Ephrata Performing Arts Center on stage. I cannot wait for the remake to come out. Danielle Brooks is in it. It's just going to be incredible. So for The Color Purple alone, Alice Walker makes the list.
Very good choice. Again, I'm really gonna let you have my number 4, so I'm just waiting for you to say it.
I don't think we have the same one.
I think we definitely have to. I'm gonna go with Emily Bronte.
Bronte.
The 2 dots always get me.
Again, but yeah, Bronte.
She is one of those classic novelists that when I think about literature and I think about reading, she's also one of those authors that as a woman you can't really out of the conversation.
Yeah. My number 4, I'm gonna say Toni Morrison. Is that who you think? Is that who you thought?
That is my number
4.
She was my number 4.
I had to read Beloved in high school as an AP English text, and I actually, for all of the stories, sorry, Mrs. Rank, Mrs. Bollinger, hopefully you're not listening. Hopefully you are listening, but hopefully you're not listening to this part. I didn't really read many of the books we were supposed to read in AP, but Beloved is one that I actually did read, and so that one stands out from her catalog, her repertoire. Yeah, Toni Morrison's got to be on there.
So, Mrs. Rank, if you're listening, unlike Aubyn, I did read everything that you had us read. So that's why Toni Morrison.
She knows how to do it. She knows.
So, Aubyn did take my 4 and 5. So I had Toni Morrison number 4, Harper Lee in number 5 for the same reasons that he listed. So I am sitting right next to my bookshelf. So I am pulling authors off of my bookshelf now that have had an impact in my life as a reader.
You did not say Coho yet. Where's Coho on your list?
Well, she is not on my list because she's so problematic, but she has made her way onto my list because you have stolen the people on my list. So my number 4 is going to Lauren Asher, author of the Dreamland Billionaire series and a million other things. This series, every book is over 500 pages, and I have read every single book in literally less than 2 days. So although I did not want to give any current authors, I don't want to say current authors, but I didn't really give any of like the mainstream authors my top 5. Lauren Asher, the way that she writes has just given me so much as a reader. So number 4.
Go ahead and do your number 5 while you're there.
Unfortunately, Colleen Hoover has to make the list. I know she's problematic. Please do not come for me. Colleen Hoover is my number 5 because it ends with us. So the first book to this series, It Ends With Us, was what got me into reading so hardcore over the summer. And now I'm on my 9th book of 2023. So
I make the joke a lot. Shaylyn has single-handedly paid Colleen Hoover's mortgage. The number of books, Amazon packages that have come to our house that have Colleen Hoover books in it. We've at least, if not paid for her mortgage, we've at least paid a car note. We've at least paid for one car payment for Colleen Hoover.
So she has had a huge impact on my reading. Not by choice, because I have steered away from her now that I know the scandals. But she did play a huge role in me getting back into reading. So that's why she makes the list.
And my number 5 is none other than Phyllis Wheatley. This is another historical, influential pick. She was the first African-American published poet. And so she also remains one of the most widely read poets through pre-19th century America. And so I think we wouldn't have a lot of the writers, especially in African-American literature. We wouldn't have a Maya Angelou. We wouldn't have a Toni Morrison. We wouldn't have an Alice Walker. We wouldn't have Michelle Obama being able to write her memoir. We wouldn't be able to have Oprah writing hers without the work that Phyllis Wheatley did as a former slave and writing these and being able to be published. Even just the fact that she was able to learn to read and write was a big thing in that time. And then for her work to still be read and still be as important as it is now, I don't think that we can really talk about this list without her, which is a common phrase I've said a lot today. So yeah, that rounds out my top 5. This has been fun. This is a good first episode. This has been an episode of the Culture Corner podcast, our very first episode. Thank you, Shaylyn, for the idea and for doing this with me. I'm looking forward to our next episode. Check us out on Wednesday for an episode of Come On Son. We're talking football, so make sure to check us out. Same place, probably about the same time. It'll probably be around 8 o'clock, so make sure you check us out. Tune in. Check us out on all of our socials. Anything before we go, Shaylyn?
I also put myself on the top of every list.
As you should. You're at the top of my list every day.
Disgusting.
Blech. All right, everybody. Appreciate you watching. Thank you so much. Happy Women's Month. And this has been another episode of the Culture Corner podcast. Peace out, everybody.